You know, we keep talking about what's happening overseas because it's very important. Our foreign policy is vital to the security of the United States. The Islamic radicals from what is called ISIS or ISIL have unleashed a brutal wave of suicide attacks in Iraq. And critics are asking, does the Obama administration know what it's doing? Does it have a strategy to actually defeat ISIS?
That's the million-dollar question, and so far ISIS has taken over key cities in both Iraq and Syria, while the White House is still trying to come up with a way to stop the deadly terrorists. Gary Lane has the story.
Iraqi Prime Minister al-Abadi is confident Iraqi troops can liberate the strategic city of Ramadi from the Islamic State.
Can assure you we can bring it back soon. I'm talking about days now.
But a number of U.S. officials and strategists are questioning Iraq's will and the Obama administration's commitment to defeat ISIS. As they did in Mosul last summer, Iraqi troops fled Ramadi when Islamic State fighters overran the city. That led to harsh criticism from U.S. Defense Secretary Ashton Carter.
The Iraqi forces just showed no will to fight. They were not outnumbered. In fact, they vastly outnumbered the opposing force, and yet they failed to fight.
But many analysts are asking who really lacks the will to confront ISIS, the Iraq Army or the Obama administration? The head of Iran's elite Quds Force of the Revolutionary Guard, General Qasem Soleimani, put the blame on the United States, suggesting that the U.S. formed a coalition and hasn't done a thing to defeat ISIS. He said America doesn't have the will to confront them. And now a growing number of military strategists, both inside and outside the Pentagon, are questioning the president's approach of fighting ISIS with only limited U.S. airstrikes. According to the Washington Times, one Defense Department counterterrorism official asked, "What strategy? We are now floating along, reacting to ISIS." Others question the administration's rules of engagement for the airstrikes. One former Pentagon official told the Times that combat pilots can linger over targets for hours before approval comes to strike. And there's reportedly growing concern about the U.S. not getting advanced weapons to the Kurdish Peshmerga fighters. It's one Iraqi force willing to fight with proven success on the battlefield. But critics say the U.S. isn't doing enough to support them. And even though ISIS has made numerous gains in recent weeks, not only in Iraq, but also in Syria, the White House still claims its policy against ISIS is working. And the Iraqi government's wide-scale operation to defeat ISIS in Ramadi was well received at the White House.
I think that is a clear indication of the will of the Iraqi security forces to fight. And the United States and our coalition partners will stand with them as they do so.
But how firmly they stand and whether it will be enough to defeat ISIS in Iraq and Syria will be apparent in the days and weeks ahead. Gary Lane, CBN News.
You know, it's a shame. We temporized in relation to Syria. Syria was blowing apart, and we wouldn't move. The president said, I'm going to make a red line. If they use chemical weapons, this is the red line. Well, they used chemical weapons, and he did absolutely nothing, which says the rest of the nations of the earth said, well, his word means nothing. And unfortunately, you have to have a clear word if you're going to win. You have to talk about victory. Douglas MacArthur said it so well, in war, there's no substitute for victory. You're either going to win the thing or not, but you can't temporize. And so limited airstrikes, a few bombs here and there are not doing it. But a fully armed combat division of special forces people with all the weaponry they need, plus air support, we could take ISIS and drive them into the ocean. But we're not doing it, and it kind of makes you upset. Well, on the political front, I just wonder how many more Republicans want to run for president. Maybe the whole Senate will just all declare we're all going to be senators, president. Somebody said every senator, he wakes up in the morning, looks in the mirror, he sees a future president. Well, apparently a bunch of them do. And the crowded field of Republican presidential candidates is getting even more crowded. Our John Jessup has that story from CBN News Bureau in Washington. Here's John.
Pat, that is right. Former Senator Rick Santorum launched his bid for the White House in his home state of Pennsylvania. He promised to fight for American workers and urged Americans to pray for spiritual revival to heal our land. He also pledged to fight for the freedom of religion in daily life and not just inside houses of worship. And former New York Governor George Pataki announced this morning that he's running for the Republican nomination as well. Donald Trump is thinking about running for president again, but unlike the past when he's talked about it, this time he's actually showing some signs that he's serious. David Brody spoke with the Donald on one of Trump's recent trips to Iowa.
Wherever he goes, Donald Trump attracts a crowd.
These are hard-working people that love the country. That's what the people of Iowa are.
Here in Des Moines, Iowa, fans stand in line, ready to meet the successful businessman who may soon be a candidate for president. He knows the political importance of this state and has made a number of visits.
Iowa, your impressions, and what are you feeling out there with the crowds that you're seeing?
Well, we're getting great crowds. As you know, we're getting the biggest crowds by far. We're getting standing ovations because I'm not a politician. I tell it like it is, and people have to hear it.
Trump has flirted with presidential runs before, but this time he's organizing in the early primary states. His top guy is Chuck Laudner, who helped Rick Santorum win in Iowa 4 years ago.
We have a great team of people. They're hardworking. They believe in my message, and my message is make America great again. We have to make America rich again and make America great again.
If he gets into the race, you could see him among the heavy hitters. That's because polls place him in the top 10 presidential candidates, which would land him a spot in the first debate. Yet the mainstream media and even some conservatives don't take him seriously.
For people that don't want to take you serious, what's your answer to them?
A lot of people don't think I'm running. That's where the not serious is concerned only. And that's easily answered, and that'll be answered in the month of June, and people will be surprised.
So what is it exactly that attracts conservatives to him?
I like somebody who's actually not a politician, somebody's actually had a paycheck, made a paycheck, employed people, built something.
He's a celebrity. He attracts people to the political arena that aren't interested in political stuff. He promotes conservative principles, and he's fun and forceful.
That force showed up often during our interview. From what he thinks of Barack Obama.
We have a president that's incompetent, doesn't know what he's doing.
To immigration.
Nobody can build a fence like me, David. You know that. I built great buildings all over the world. There's nobody can build a fence, and I would have Mexico pay for it, believe me. They will pay for it.
And even on representing persecuted Christians around the world.
Believe me, if I run and I win, I will be the greatest representative of the Christians that they've had in a long time.
Despite all the talk and love from some within the GOP base, his strong ego can be a turnoff for some.
Today, I'm very proud of myself.
His negativity ratings are high, which would be a challenge, but Trump says if he runs, people will get to know a different side of him.
I have a big heart. You know, I think you have to. You have to take care of people. And I do have a big heart. I have great relationships with people when they know me. A lot of people don't like me, but those are the people that don't know me.
We may indeed get more of an up-close look at Donald Trump, finally, in 2016. David Brody, CBN News, in Des Moines, Iowa.
Thanks, David. Pat, as David said, up close and personal with the Donald.
He's a very fascinating guy. I've known him for a long time. I got to know Marla Maples, and she said she read the Bible, and one of his directors of security is one of our 1,000 Club members. So Donald is quite a man, amazing person, and he's done remarkable things, but he is full of ego like few people we've ever known in history, but nevertheless, people might go for it. I mean, he sure did pull off a bunch of real estate coups that everybody thought were impossible. So maybe the people want somebody that knows how to get something done. But we've got too many candidates out there now. Not that they're not good. I don't mean to denigrate any of them, but they just, only one can win it. And it's just, sooner or later, they're going to cut each other up. And I think already Fox and other media outlets are started winnowing down the debates to those who show particular standing in the national ratings. There's just got to be something like that. You just can't have everybody standing on the platform, you know, yakking away, and it'll ruin it. So there's got to be some discipline in the Republican Party, or somebody has to exercise discipline. But the nice thing for the Republicans, they have an abundance of riches. They have some very, very fine people. Marco Rubio, fine person. Ted Cruz, fine person. Governor Walker, fine person. Absolutely wonderful. And Now I understand John Kasich is thinking of getting in, and Rick Santorum. They're just tremendous people. They all are. They'll all make, every one of them would be better than the guy in the White House right now. John?
Pat, the Houston area got a break from rain for most of the day Wednesday, but officials are still asking some residents to evacuate as the floodwaters flow downstream. The death toll has risen to at least 20 people in this week's catastrophic flooding in Texas and Oklahoma, and even more severe weather is forecast for today. That could hamper efforts to find about a dozen people who are still missing. Meanwhile, residents in Central Texas are racing to salvage their remaining belongings.
It was every letter I've written to her for the last 25 years. I didn't know she had kept them.
We're doing just putting up, trying to save everything.
Many dams are also in danger, with rivers expected to rise again as the storm threat continues. Operation Blessing is on the ground in San Marcos, Texas, helping with recovery efforts in one of the hardest hit flooded areas. Teams are working with local pastors to help residents and assist with cleanup. Rhonda Martinez says that the water that poured into her home was so strong it tore the tiles off the floor in a matter of minutes.
We weren't able to evacuate the home. We tried, we couldn't. We did get rescued with the city of San Marcos. There was about 3 inches of mud in our home once we got there. Windows had been broken from the water.
Some of her neighbors are still missing. Operation Blessing encouraged Rhonda with prayer and gave her gift cards so she and her family could buy some much-needed personal items. And Pat, as you well know, every little bit helps.
Well, Operation Blessing is there. That's the nice thing, folks. When there's a disaster that strikes, Operation Blessing goes in, and it goes in and it stays. And we're there in South Texas. We're there in, well, you name it, in Kathmandu. We're there helping those people. And if you want to be involved, Operation Blessing, Disaster Relief Fund, 1-800-759-0700, or you can call cbn.com. But this is Operation Blessing doing that, but CBN has its disaster relief, so we have actually 2 organizations that are out helping people. Can't help them all, but it doesn't take much when you're desperate. Somebody that'll help you rebuild your house. Somebody help you to get the drywall up. Somebody help you take all the mud out of your living room. Somebody that'll help you pick up the damaged furniture, throw it away, and help you get some new in place. And somebody just give you a gift card so you can get some food down at the local Walmart. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we do that help people in that time of desperate emergency.